Welcome to another episode of OG55. We got the Italiano, Jared from Capture the Magic, and Slimer in the house. We're talking all about Epic Universe. These three gentlemen have been to this amazing park. We're going to talk about the crowds. We're going to talk about the park itself, thoughts, pros, cons, all that good stuff. Up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. This is Epic Universe Edition. We're talking all about Epic Universe. We have Jared from Capture the Magic back on the show. Jared, thank you for joining us, brother. How you doing today, sir?
Thank you for having me. Doing well. Had a nice little evening. Made some hibachi for dinner tonight, so I'm all full, ready to talk theme parks, and don't have an empty stomach, so things are good.
Perfect. Yeah, we do a show, all of us actually on Jared's channel, Theme Parking.
Yep. I was actually going to tell you guys we'll do probably next week. I didn't know George would be back in at home before we did that, but yeah, we'll talk about Epic Universe there, and I'm sure there will be 25 other stories pop up between now and then. So it's always a good time over there. Theme Parking over on the Capture the Magic YouTube channel. It's always a good time. So appreciate you fellas having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can find him on Capture the Magic YouTube. Check him out.
Yep,
also,
Capture the Magic everywhere.
Capture the Magic everywhere. So Instagram, all that good stuff. So make sure you
cap the magic, because you can't use it's too long to do the other thing. But
there we go. There we go. Cap the Magic. And again, Jared, thank you for joining us today. Slimer, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. And, Jared, you inspired me. I couldn't let you be the only one wearing a Bass Pro Shop hat. So there will be two Bass Pro Shop hats tonight.
There we go. Your guys' other ones are in the mail. I'll send them out. I got like 15.
Let's do it. Absolutely. You both looking really sexy with those Bass Pro Shop hats. And we got to do a show where we're all rocking them. That'd be amazing.
Of course.
I think it should be a new trend. We just set the trend of, I actually have a Memorial Day one that's got a bunch of like flags and fishes all over it. I might wear that for the holidays coming up.
That'd be amazing. Mr. Slimer, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Yeah. You guys can find me on X at Slime Square. You can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 as well. And you can catch me on Jared's channel on Theme Parking at Capture the Magic.
There he is. And the Italiano. He's been having a very uneventful week, right? It's been kind of a laid back kind of thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like nothing like major going on. Just on vacation. What could possibly go wrong, right?
Dude, your situation was like the Griswold summer vacation or something. Like,
it was like one thing after the other. It just was like nonstop. It's like I thought I could take a breath after having surgery. I get out of the hospital 2 days later, go back to the hotel, find out my backpack's missing that has all my important documentation for the cruise.
Oh,
and like,
did you recover it?
Yeah, 5.5 hours later. After the fact, I went down to Cabana Bay Guest Services and asked them, has anyone turned in a blue backpack? Nope, nothing was turned in. Here, it was OG and good friend Mademoiselle that said, well, if your what kind of laptop do you have? And I said, it's a MacBook Pro. And they said, did you use because OG asked if I had a
like a Find Me app,
or like an AirTag or something like that. And I was like, no, I don't have any of that. Well, here the app was deleted off my phone, and I re-downloaded it, and it said it's 0.1 miles away. It's at Adventure Way. I'm like, that's where we're at. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I wasted 5.5 hours of my day when I started at Guest Services. And lo and behold, it was in the Lost and Found right behind Starbucks.
It's crazy, though, because I figured that's why I asked him, do you have a Find Me app or something? Because it's Apple, so it's always, what you gonna do? They track you no matter what. You're gonna.
That is true. But did you just leave, like when you were in pain? You just kind of leave your bag? You think, like?
Yeah, when we checked into the hotel, it was right before I went to the hospital, so I must have sat it down when we were checking in and just literally.
I don't even care at this point. I'm in pain. Yeah.
Absolutely wild. But hey, you know whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it also makes for a great story. Like later,
you got a great story.
Oh yeah, I could like talking about it with you guys now. Like I could look back at it and laugh, but in that moment, I think I was speaking tongues.
Yeah, he was. He was hot. He was mad. But George, where can everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And you can also check out my new YouTube channel, Citrico Central, sister channel to Orange Grove 55.
Yeah, George's live streams on Citrico are banging, bro. They are something else. So make sure you check those out. They're a lot of fun. We got a lot of fun people in the community that it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
We really do. I love like our community, not just the Disney community, but like our own inner bubble community, like within Orange Grove 55 and Citrico Central and Capture the Magic and everything. Like everyone's just so great.
Yeah,
it makes it a lot of fun. And I know for a fact after the last live stream we had, a couple of the longtime podcast listener of ours were like, they subscribed over to you guys. They're like, that was a fun show. I'm like, yeah, it's a good time. Like, yeah, so it's
awesome.
Fun to do that. Yeah. Did you do a hospital live stream, George?
I didn't. I should have though, because I ended up getting the surgeon to subscribe.
I knew it. You probably gave him a sticker too.
Was this your private account or to your Citrico Central?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, he did go a little bit up close and personal, but like,
he's while I'm here, do you have a YouTube channel? You're like, wow.
He's like, I've already seen everything. I don't need your OF. There's
no secret between us now.
Exactly. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into Epic Universe. Jared, I'll start with you, sir. You've been to this park a few times now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I have been 3 times.
Okay, now. And have you been since the official grand opening and all that, or?
No, we just went the day of. So we're going to go the second day. We swapped those tickets for a preview date. So we went to a team member preview, a general preview, and then opening day was the third time. And I want to go back. I just trying to figure out when to do it. But 3 times, and was up bright and early at 4:45 in the morning to go to the grand opening of it. And it was an experience. I'll put it that way. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Now we've talked about it a lot on your channel with theme parking, but for people new to this who haven't seen those episodes, what were your overall thoughts of the park? Did you like it? Love it? Didn't like it?
I love the park. I think it's a very unique, interesting concept for a park. I think it's very well. I think it's pretty balanced. Now there are some things like there's not going to be any shade in this park for a while, so that is one thing. In the summer, you're going to bake in Celestial Park, but the portals, the immersion. I finally got to ride Battle of the Ministry. The scale of some of these attractions it's just insane. And I kind of think it's a culmination of what Universal Creative has done the past 10 years of just showing here's what we're able to do. And, I think it's very impressive what they pulled off. And it just, like the portal concept, I think is a very unique one, but the way in which they did it, I think they pulled off very well to immerse you into these lands that you're going into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of cool too, because when it comes to new theme parks, I've always said this, but the hardest part, the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle, the biggest challenge is just getting the thing built. Yep. Getting all the infrastructure in place and just getting that thing just open. And Universal, I think, they came out the gate. This isn't a perfect park. No park is perfect, but they came out the gate really strong. And it's really nowhere else but up from here, because now if they go in there and they add Zelda or they add, Lord of the Rings or whatever they want to add, right? It's only going to get better and better as time goes on. This is a very strong start for a brand new theme park, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, if you look at it's got more at 11 attractions, it has more than Animal Kingdom to this day. And I think, am I right, Slimer? It has the most attractions on opening day of a park, or maybe I think probably more than Islands.
You mean in Florida or
in the last 25 years, since Islands and Animal Kingdom opened. I'm trying to remember how many islands opened with.
Yeah, I would say Islands probably opened with more, but I could be wrong. MGM Studios also had quite a bit of attractions when it opened as well. Universal did not. Universal had a lot of
That's true.
Yeah, Universal had a lot of filler entertainment, like what did they have? Alfred Hitchcock. They had the I Love Lucy tribute. They didn't even have T2 3D yet, so that wasn't even a thing. So they had a lot of entertainment offerings, but in terms of rides, it was pretty low. And the ones that were working, right? I mean, remember, Universal Studios was quite a disaster, but also because it was probably the most ambitious theme park that had been built yet. Even though a lot of the concepts were really just expansions of their studio tour, they wanted to do single out rides and make them their own attractions. And I mean, I'm not going to give the whole story. Everybody knows it, but very problematic. And I did the preview for Islands of Adventure, and that was also very problematic park as well. Very similar opening too. The crowds were very small. I mean, I think that there were probably a little bit bigger crowds for Islands of Adventure when that first opened, simply because let's see. I mean, you didn't have it. You didn't have, what was this, 1999? So you had a couple of parks opening. There was that park. There was like just a park fever, I guess you could say, back then, where there isn't quite a park fever right now. And I think the lower attendance numbers kind of show that too. That people, I'll say this: if you look at the attendance numbers of the first year of MGM Studios and Islands of Adventure, for example, people don't go to Universal Parks as crazily as they do to Disney parks. That's just not the way the Universal Parks grow in popularity is totally different. It's a gradual progression. If you just look at Islands of Adventure, for example, I mean, they probably had 3 to 5 million attendees per year for a couple of years. And then from 2006 all the way to the present day, it's just been growing and growing and growing. Whereas MGM Studios, Animal Kingdom, they open hot, but then their numbers really don't go anywhere for like 20 years.
Yeah.
They kind of hover around that 9 to 11, 12 million, somewhere around there. But they have completely different ways of growing and expanding. And, their attendance numbers are just radically different because the Universal Studio consumer base is totally different than the Disney consumer base. But
I feel like the Universal base is really heavy on APs. And I think the fact that Epic doesn't have an AP option right now probably, kind of goes into that a little bit, if I were to guess.
Great point.
That's true. The AP offerings at Universal Studios are just far superior. They take better care of their AP holders. They have better AP rooms, better AP events, better discounts. Yeah, everything's better.
I feel like Universal has to fight for that. I feel like with Disney, it's always the safe bet because in their mind as a company, oh, we're Disney. It's it's one of the top name brand, and people still go no matter what. We could see it, and Disney doesn't have to compete in that sense where they have to win over the fans because they're like, hey, people will bitch and moan and complain about it, but hey, they'll still show up. So why should we do anything different? Where with Universal,
they got to fight.
They have to fight for it. Yeah,
100%.
Now, George got the market share for sure. I mean, it makes a lot of sense there. Yeah, it is interesting with the crowd. I mean, we were shocked. I mean, it was walk-ons on opening day.
Same here.
And I was not expecting that. But I think when you look at Thrill Data has that out there where I think they had capped opening day at like under 13,000. So I think what they may have done was they just didn't add after that initial ticket sales and then the single ticket offerings that they did for APs and stuff. I don't think they added to it off the bat. And I'm guessing off of the previews, they may have just decided, let's go on a lower end and still work through the issues with these rides before. If you look at July 1st, it ramps up to 22,000 of the capacity as of right now. So it looks like they're aiming for July to really ramp up the park capacity there. So I think that may be part of what kind of goes into it. But I was very surprised, and I enjoyed my day at the park, given walked on to basically everything in the park.
Well, from a customer service standpoint, for a guest experience, I mean, empty park, you can't beat that, I mean, I'm sure all the guest surveys are like through the roof because no one's waiting in line. I mean, it's like, it's a walk on.
And that is something I wondered about if that was what they would aim for, because I think the other end of that spectrum is, let's say you had 20,000 people in the park, stuff goes down. That's going to be bad press. People are going to be complaining about the rides and everything. Now we rope drop Battle of the Ministry and waited in line, and it broke down first thing in the morning. And we were in line we got into the park at 6:30. So we were back there. So we got out of line at noon, and it still wasn't running. So the day didn't start great, but we were able to go back later and ride it. But everything else, like I said, like Hiccups Wing Gliders was like 5 minutes. We were just walking. We rode it 4 times in a row.
Nice.
Just kept walking on it, and it was a nice leisure day, and it wasn't too hot. Like I was very surprised by the crowds, but very much enjoyed it, especially compared to how I was in the previews.
Now, Italiano, I want to get your opinion on the park overall, because I know you did touch upon that on your channel, right? But I want to touch upon it with you on here as well. But before we dive into that, since we're kind of talking about the crowds and all that, you went yesterday.
Correct.
Okay, and then you said it was empty yesterday.
There was people, that there was people, but yeah, it was not what I was anticipating. Like everything was a walk on. I ended up buying Abby and I, me and Abby, express passes, thinking we were going to need it, thinking it was going to be like, wow, crowds and everything. And we used them for 2 attractions, but we didn't have to. But I ended up calling Universal Guest Services, and I told them the situation and everything. And what was funny was when I spoke to her, she went back into her computer. She could see what I used the express passes on, what time I used them, and how long the wait times were when it got scanned.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
And because she read it right off to me, she was like, "Oh, Yoshi's Adventure at so-and-so time. It was only 5 minutes." And I said, yeah, I felt obligated to use it so we wouldn't waste money. So I have to give credit where credit's due. Universal, they refunded me the whole entire amount for the 2 express passes.
And Disney, we talked about on the phone earlier, George, but you probably wouldn't have had that experience with Disney. I mean, call it a hunch, but probably not.
I was gonna say I had heard the day of people were getting refunds because there was no need for express passes, like at all. Yeah. Like I could have, and like I'd heard from multiple people they had gotten refunds. Like they just went up to the concierge at the park and they just gave them a refund on the spot. So I think that's good on their part, understanding that and just trying to make the customer happy.
Yeah, everything was a walk on. Monsters Unchained was 10 minutes. Hiccups was 5. Yoshi's was 5. Minecart Madness was down for most of the day, but then when it came back online, it was a consistent 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, George, you brought up to me on the phone earlier, and I kind of want to touch upon this because I'm a Californian. I have no idea about these distances and all that stuff with especially Universal. I've never even been to Universal Orlando.
Oh, you mentioned California?
Well, I'm what?
You're from California?
Oh, I'm very much from California, sir. I am hold on one second. There we go. I'm a Californian, bro. Absolutely through and through. No, but I'm not too familiar with the distances, right? So you were telling me today on the phone about the distance between the Universal or resort proper to Epic, because my assumption was kind of like in relation, like for our Californians out there, it was like Disneyland Resort to like the Toy Story parking lot. But you were telling me it wasn't.
Correct. That's what I thought it was too. I thought it was like when they said, "Oh, it's like right down the street from the resort." That was my assumption. It's like, okay, it's like maybe like a couple blocks, a mile down, what have you. It took us because we caught the bus outside of Cabana Bay. It took us about 25 minutes to get from the resort to Epic. Now, mind you, when we got in line and for all of you who have seen my vlog on Citrico Central, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. I actually recorded getting in line for the bus. Everybody was in line for Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, and City Walk. Nobody was in line for Epic.
See, that's crazy. That's crazy. Go ahead.
And we'll touch upon that in a little bit too, because I have a wild story of what happened today. But that makes me wonder.
Oh yeah. Well, wait, George, you never know, bro. So that it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. You know what I'm saying?
We'll get them all Bass Pro Shop hats.
Yeah,
We'll make it right. We'll make it right.
Absolutely.
But that does make me have a concern that if it takes that long to get to and from the actual core of the resort to Epic, when nobody is like going to Epic right now, what is it going to be like when there are massive crowds during the summer, when you have these lines lining up for the buses and each bus is going 20, 25 minutes one way? And then you're going to have another 20, 25 minutes another way to pick up more people. I'm just curious. Now, of course, I know they have like enough buses and everything, but I just was not anticipating that length between the resort and Epic.
Like, what time did you get on the bus? Like, did you go?
So we got on the bus. It was 8:45. We didn't arrive until 9:15.
Did they stop at Universal and IOA first?
No, this bus was only specific for Epic Universe.
I think it's probably dependent on traffic. They redid a lot of those roads over there. Like, I know we did take the bus from Terra Luna a couple of stays ago to the main campus, and it took 15 minutes. So I'm guessing there is. I mean, they have those dedicated bus lanes that they put in, but you still have a large section of that is pretty heavy traffic depending on the time of day. So I'm not surprised. Like, if you get near the dockside and surfside hotels, that can get pretty jammed up because you're coming off of I-4 right there before you get in there. So that I think it'd be interesting to see what time it would be like in the evening, like say 9 o'clock at night or something, how quickly that is versus. I have wondered about that because it is farther, I think, than most people think. Just it is technically down the road, but down the road being
and it's weird for me, and it's probably just me because I'm a theme park nerd and I look at stuff and I dissect it. To a normie, they probably wouldn't care. Even though it's a Universal park and it definitely screams Universal, I felt out of the Universal bubble going to Epic.
Yeah.
Because it seems like with everything else, when you have Volcano Bay, you have the studios, you have City Walk, you have IOA, you have the other hotels, you could basically walk, you could take a bus, you could take the little water taxi, everything is to your expense there. But then it's like to go to Epic, you have to kind of reach for the stars, no pun intended, to go like further down, the road. And not saying it's a bad thing. Universal has to do what they have to do.
They gotta do, and we're gonna be posed with the same problem. If we get a third park out here, it's gonna be probably that Toy Story lot. There's gonna be a travel time, probably more than likely.
And you get some of that too, even in Disney World. Like if you stay at one of the friendly neighbor hotels, it doesn't feel like you're in the Disney bubble per se. I mean, you're staying at a Holiday Inn or what is it, the B, or they have 4 or 5 of them over there by Disney Springs, but I don't feel like I'm in Disney when I'm staying at a Holiday Inn. And so even though it's still in Lake Buena Vista, you're still, you're in the bubble, but you're not thematically in the bubble. Exactly. And, taking getting on there and let's say you take a bus, right? Let's say you take a bus from, I've done this several times where I stay at one of the neighborhood hotels and I want to go to Animal Kingdom, let's say, which is one of the farthest parks from there. It takes me 20, 30 minutes just to get to Animal Kingdom, and you're stopping at every single hotel along the way. And yeah, that's a dinker way of getting to your destination. That's why I like staying at the hotels that are right by the park that I'm going to. That's why I love Stella Nova so much.
Do you know what it reminds me of? And this is probably like this is an old, I'm not even dating myself because this was even before me, but it was a skit on the Carol Burnett show. It was called No Frills Airline, where it's like there were 2 seats separating that if you paid for the most expensive seat, you get the food, you get everything. And then Tim Conway behind Harvey Korman didn't pay the extra, and he has no seatbelt. The seat is loose, and it was like they were treating him like horribly. So that's what it was like for me. It's like when you're in the bubble, you're like so close, but then when you're not, you just don't have like that extra little.
Now I want to ask you, Jared. Do you think that that distance will hurt Epic at all, or do you think that it'll sort itself out and people will get kind of accustomed kind of going the travel time and all that good stuff?
I mean, I think ultimately if the park experience is good enough, and I think it is, I think it's one of those things. It's not ideal, but like you were saying, like there's really nothing they can do about it. I mean, you're not going to be able to get landmass like what Walt Disney World has. That's like once in a lifetime thing that Walt was able to pull off that in this era he wouldn't even be able to do today. They would have with social media, they would have snuffed out like, oh, I think Walt Disney's buying. It'd be like Apple trying to buy up a town. They'd be like, hey, wait a minute, we figured this out. So I think it's not ideal. They have done construction. I think they'll probably do more on the roadways, even in the future, to fix a lot of that, to make it a little bit more seamless. I mean, you could technically go a dedicated bus route for the majority of the way there.
See, that's why, like, for me, that's why I would just like be putting like eviction notices on everybody's doors.
Yeah,
like just to clear up some room.
Well, and that there was proposed at one point. I think they had tossed around an idea of something, of a transportation system, but I just don't think the city would let them. But I mean,
no, I'm not talking about a transportation system. I'm just saying, like, wipe it all out, like just
get them all out of there. Yeah, I mean, hey, gotta do what you got to do.
I think that was the plot of RoboCop 3, and they were the bad guys. So
RoboCop and Judge Dredd out here enforcing it. Yeah, I like
it. Yeah. I've made a few videos like back in the day, like not back in the day, but like I would say like 20. When was that? Like 2019-ish, I think. We were having some issues out here in California with the businesses on Harbor Boulevard. They were really pushing back against Disney for that Eastern Gateway thing they wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I was always joking. If it was Mayor OG, man, I'd be out there with the bulldozer, you know? Like, let's just let Disney do what they got to do, you know?
Well, and as bad as that drive is now, and before the road work, when they first said they were putting Epic right there, I was like, how? Because literally it is around residential areas. There's like a Chick-fil-A, a 7-Eleven over there. There's an apartment complex, and it was just 2-lane roads. And I was like, and then when they did the road construction, it has helped it out a lot. Like driving around that, since they've redone it, it is much smoother and better. But from where it was to now, I couldn't even imagine what that would have been like if they didn't do the road work, because it would just be even a bigger mess. But they did extend those bus lanes, I think almost halfway. It's almost to where I think you get to International Drive. But it's much better than it was. So it could get better in that end. But it is, it's a little bit of a distance there. But I think we timed it most of the time. It was like 15 minutes. I think maybe 20. Okay. But it can be very dependent upon traffic in that area.
Yeah. I know they added a total of approximately 85 or 87 electrical buses to their bus line to be able to transport high demand of people. So I think they're probably not running that right now. I mean, with 16,000 capped guests going to Epic Universe, there's no way they're running their entire fleet at the moment. But I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it will be an issue eventually once that park starts hitting capacity. But
what I don't understand is like because a team member did tell me that like when we first entered into Epic Universe, and he said, he even said it even before we walked in. He said we got light crowds today. We had limited amount of tickets and what have you. And I was like, oh, okay, and I still thought like, well, what is considered as light crowds? Because you could say light crowds and, a ride could still be 45, 50 minutes long,
like light crowds at Magic Kingdom means something completely different to, tourists than it does to local.
Well, what's interesting is during previews, they were capping them around 9,000 guests. And when we went at the end of the night, they gave us they may have gave it to you, George, the next day, but it was like a grand opening, like a commemorative ticket. And on it is stamped a number. And ours was like 9,960 something. And this was like right at the end of the night. And I talked to the team member because I had talked about that. I had heard they were aiming for 20,000 of a park capacity when they opened. And she said they had 20,000 of these tickets, but they didn't have 20,000 people in the park. I'm guessing from the previews that they really did limit that. And then, from going off that, I don't know if they handed them out in chronological order.
But later on that day, and I forget who mentioned it. I don't know if it was Remy D or Giant Peter's show, but I think it was one of them that said that they literally could jump online. While the day I was at Epic, they could jump online and there were tickets available. They could have bought same day for Epic.
And they had... on Thrilled Out, it showed you there. I think as of today, they had like 150 tickets you could get. Like each day seems to kind of fluctuate. I'm wondering if a lot of people, because you got to think when they first introduced tickets, people bought them up, and then previews were introduced much later. Yeah. And maybe people like what we did, maybe a lot of people exchanged those tickets for preview tickets, and that's sort of the allotment they had left over. That they did have, or maybe they left some over for day of, just a certain amount of them, but. Yeah, there are day of tickets that you can get, even though it was showing me I couldn't buy AP one-day tickets when I looked. It wasn't showing anything available till like mid-June. So I'm not sure. Maybe they just have a certain allotment for like general public that want to go, or what it is, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm very curious to see how, as the summer goes on, the crowd patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume by looking at the 22,000 cap in July that they're anticipating it getting heavier. But the way they did the ticket, though, too, I mean, I do wonder with it being sold within a 3-day package, people are just picking and choosing which day to go. If that has something to do with it, I don't know. They did a very interesting way to do the tickets, trying to limit that capacity, and it seems like they're definitely going that route.
This is the kind of the bizarre thing that I noticed today, because we had one more ticket that we had to use, and we ended up going to the studios. We went up to the studio park, and immediately I called OG because I was like, I must be seeing things. It was packed in there today, and I mean like abnormally packed. Like normal, like I could see like more people over at IOA over the studios, but you couldn't walk in Diagon Alley. It was literally shoulder to shoulder. Escape from Gringotts was like 75, 80 minutes.
Oh, wow.
There was like just people everywhere. And so I called him. I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, I thought it was going to be the opposite. Like, I thought that the crowds would have been going over to Epic and these parks would have been basically getting dehydrated, so to speak, of people. But it seems like it was actually
was that a kidney stone joke, George?
I had to throw
that. Sorry.
Kidney stones for everybody.
Let's go, baby. We're dehydrating everybody. Let's do this. Go ahead. Sorry, bro.
That's funny.
But even at IOA the day before we went to Epic, it was pretty lengthy crowds. And so that's just what surprised me, because I thought it was going to do the opposite. But it seems like it's drawing people into the other parks more. Now, again, I don't know if it's because, people are waiting to maybe see like if, the kinks to kind of like wait till they like work themselves out or what have you. But I do know that whoever had Epic today, I mean, they didn't really have too much of an epic day because it was raining cats and dogs over here. And even when I was in Epic, they were calling for storms, but it wasn't raining yet. But they ended up shutting down majority of the rides before the rain even came, and only 4 attractions were opened.
Let me ask you guys a question, because George, we talked about this for out here. We went to the Disneyland 70th anniversary kickoff weekend. We spent the whole weekend there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. George, you noticed this, and I did too. Saturday was light, or not light, but lighter. We'll say that, right?
Yes.
Than the other 2 days. But that day had more blockouts for the Magic Keys.
Correct.
Do you think that there's a dynamic here with that? Because Epic doesn't have annual passes yet, right?
Correct.
So maybe that's what's going on.
I think there's a lot of that, if I'm being honest. I think that Universal has a big majority of its audience that is APs, and I also think there's a general consensus of people that, and this kind of happened with Disneyland with Galaxy's Edge, where they want to go, but they're just waiting to see how this opening is going, because the presumption was it was going to be a madhouse. So a lot of people are just thinking, I'll just how the previews went with some of the rides, and it's a new park, waiting for those things to see how they prove themselves. So I think you have, if I were to guess, I think you have this small time right now where a lot of people stayed away. And they're just seeing these crowds, and it could get a lot of people. Like, some people ask me, like, should I go? And I'm like, if it's within the next couple of weeks, if you think you can make that work, I mean, it may not be bad, but then again, next week they could ramp up capacity, and who knows? But it's very surprising. And I agree with George. I was very curious about the other parks, but I do wonder if Universal, if these crowds continue this way, do they add an AP option later on this summer and not next year, kind of like what the presumption was?
Yeah, because Universal Orlando has a lot of like similarities to like Disneyland Resort in a lot of ways, and so I think that's definitely a factor with all this. So I'm rooting for the park. I think it looks really awesome. I think it looks really cool. So I think that I want to see it succeed, and I hopefully it gets busier and it kind of does the numbers that Comcast is looking for. So We'll see.
I think it will, and I do think. I mean, I'm looking right here at the thrill data, and it looks like they've got some days as low as capping it at 12,000. And it seems like the general number is like under 13,000 until you hit July 1st. So I think they're actively really capping this early on, given maybe how the previews went, and just really limiting it to some degree. But it's hard to know how much of it is them capping it and how much of it is people just sort of weary of going to a new park right off the bat too.
100%.
I think you're not seeing a lot of international guests either. I mean, I know when I was there, I didn't hear a lot of international guests, people speaking in tongues. I don't know how it was for you guys. Did you guys, Jared and George, you guys were here just this last week?
There were some people from Canada. There were some British people, not a ton.
Well, now now the day that I went, there was a lot of UK people.
Okay.
There was more British people than American people, honestly, to be very honest.
Interesting.
Especially even staying at Cabana Bay, because I actually stayed on property. Majority of the people that were staying in Cabana Bay were they signed from the UK.
That's wild.
Well, I'm curious too, because we've seen the last few years the travel trends have kind of changed with Disney and Universal, where people aren't traveling as much in the summer. Like I was there July 3rd last year, and it wasn't busy at all at Disney. In the Magic Kingdom, like things were a 10-minute wait on a lot of attractions. And I do wonder if this is partly just how people they're kind of traveling at different times of the year now. And with a new park, I do think there's interest in it, but I think with a new park, there's just a lot of people that are just like, well, we'll go in the fall.
And I'm very curious too, because at the time that we're recording this, Abby and I will be going to Magic Kingdom tomorrow. And again, I didn't do this on purpose, but it's Memorial Day. So I'm very curious to see, because normally if you go on Memorial Day or you go on 4th of July, Labor Day, that these parks can pack the crowd. So I'm very curious to see if there's any change in that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've been going actually to Universal Hollywood a lot more than Disney these past few months. And we've mentioned it, George, a lot, right? Privately and on the channel, where Universal Studios Hollywood, I would say since like January or February, like technically the off season. Like since then, we've seen a lot of international guests. So to your point where you guys are making with have the travel kind of patterns, is it changing? It's possible. I mean, right, George? I mean, Hollywood it was like seriously a ton of international guests.
Almost, yeah. I think a higher percentage than locals. When you go to Disneyland, you could say, okay, I could see like these are like the California locals and everything. When you go to Universal Hollywood, you could definitely tell they're international guests. For sure. Like, I mean, like they come even like not even for like fan fest, like they're just like dressed in the cosplay, like they're like in the Super Nintendo stuff and everything. And like you could just tell that they're like from like they either come like maybe like from Korea or Japan or what have you. But yeah, there's a lot of that dynamic over at Hollywood.
Yeah, and with Disney in particular too, I feel like people have shifted from summer, which used to be like their bread and butter, to like Christmas time, holidays.
I remember us having a conversation about that a couple of years ago too, where I think this was right after the pandemic, actually, when these patterns started to shift towards the holiday season. And I think it's because the offerings are just better during the holiday season. They added the fact that the weather is just tolerable, like not even nice, but just tolerable. Whereas during like May, June, July,
I agree with you, Slimer. I mean, who wouldn't want to spend $200 to see Dr. Doofenshmirtz?
Dr. Doofenshmirtz, yeah. Shout out to Oogie Boogie Bash, yeah, absolutely.
Minus that one hiccup, you have better offerings, all right. But
hey, with Hiccup, honestly, that was a 45-minute wait. That was longer to meet Hiccup than going on Monsters Unchained.
You mean the meet and greet?
The meet and greet.
Oh yeah. What'd you think of the meet and greet?
It was good. It was really good. Yeah, I love like interacting with Hiccup, and he brought us over like how to approach Toothless. You got hold your hand out, let him come to you, and yeah, it was like one of those like the first time you meet Mickey Mouse kind of thing.
Well, and that's the thing that Universal, and this is why I've been saying for a lot of videos lately, Universal is starting to take cues from Disney in a smart way. They're tapping into their old school stuff. Like out here in California, we got that Back to the Future stuff. Smart move, brilliant move. They're tapping into the nostalgia, but even with the Toothless stuff, with Hiccup, it's that emotional. That's what people love about Disney. And now Universal's learning to do the same thing. Really smart. That Toothless thing, dude. I mean,
it is like they take, like with our son, he's very shy around people he doesn't know, doesn't say a whole lot. And when they kind of like were talking to him, they kind of noticed it, and they spent like 5 minutes with him and like talking to him, like, oh, future Dragon Rider. And he wanted them pet, and they take, especially with the kids, like they take the time, and like that's why that line moves so slow. But it legitimately, I think it may be the best meet and greet, especially that I've seen, and definitely the best one Universal's done. And just the way they did that, it's a very good touch. And even like the Super Nintendo ones, those are all super popular too. Those had lines, as much as the park wasn't insanely busy, those meet and greet lines were maxed out on all that stuff, at least the day we were there. So I think they're making strides on that side for sure.
Oh, 100%. This Yoshi meet and greet over at FanFest, dude. This Yoshi was a rock star. He came out, he was hyping the crowd.
That's awesome.
I mean, George, right? I mean, it was crazy. And the demand for him was through the roof, so
they couldn't stop people fast enough from getting in the line to meet Yoshi. They have to cap it off, have so many people in the queue space. Once it goes through, they still have it blocked off, and then it's like the team member like moves the chain, and then they all scatter because they know like everyone's gonna like storm rush into that queue. They'd get run over,
Yeah, now Yoshi's a guy, right? I don't want to misgender, but I think he's a guy. I don't know.
I think they come both genders, but I think like the main Yoshi is
that dude.
Boy, yeah.
Okay.
I like to think Mario's just getting a piggyback ride from a bro, and he's talking to a dinosaur. That's just kind of the way I look. It gets weird if it's not that. You're like, wait a minute.
Exactly. Hop on, bro. Hop on.
Yeah, I'll take you where you need to go. Yeah.
Now, Italiano, let's dive into a little bit of your experience, because now you're fresh out of Epic Universe. You did your live with Abby yesterday at the park. What are your thoughts, man? We've talked about it for a long time. You finally went. What's going on?
It was all right.
No in depth. It is okay.
No, I really enjoyed it, honestly. And I think even though it was that we had like basically the park to ourselves, like, I mean, that was just like an extra cherry on top. I think even if there were crowds, I was already going to anticipate enjoying this park. And I love how unique it's designed. And the one land that I thought that I would dislike most is actually moved to the top of my list. Celestial Park.
What?
I tell you what, photos and video don't do it justice.
I told you guys.
I could spend like a quarter of my day just in Celestial Park with the fountains and the music and the architecture. Like Universal did that smart by making that the hub, because subconsciously you don't think about it, but you have to somewhat travel there to get to the other portals. So as you're walking by, you're just admiring the fountains, you're admiring the Helios, and it became one of my top favorite lands. I think
at night it is gorgeous. Like it is literally like we were walking through there at night, and I just like sat by the fountain for like 10 minutes. I was like, I just want to hang here for a minute. Like it's so like, I love the fact that there's like a peaceful, serene area in a theme park where you can just take a beat and chill. Like there's plenty of food. One thing I like about Epic, there's tons of food options. You got plenty of drink options. Like you can get food, hang out there, get some coffee, like whatever you want to do, and just enjoy it. I agree. Celestial Park is very unique in that way.
And speaking of the food too, what we noticed, especially with Universal, they started doing it at the other parks too, but we noticed it at Epic with the quick service food. You don't have to get in line. It was just like subconsciously, you just sit down at the table, you scan the QR code, you place your order, and they bring it out to you. Now, I do know that there were people that were kind of like, okay, well, what if something's wrong with the app? It doesn't work and everything. But we talked to a few team members about that, and they said they are working like with other means, that just to say if something happens and the app crashes, or, so they have that figured out. But it was such a convenience that we didn't have to worry about waiting in line, going up to a window, handing the receipt and everything. You either they'll seat you, or like they'll say, if there's not enough, there's not a whole lot of people, just pick a table and then you scan the QR code and they bring the food right to you.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, they do it in a lot of the quick, not all. It's not uniform across property, but they're doing a lot more at the quick services at Universal. It's kind of on the studio side, like Richter's Burgers does it, but Mel's doesn't. Mel's, you can walk up and order, you can do it through the app, but they still call you up to go get it. But in Epic Universe, like we've had 2 or 3 meals there, and yeah, same thing. Like food's out within like 5 to 7 minutes, maybe, and just you don't have to worry. They'll just tell you, hey, find a spot and sit down, and it's very stress free to be able to do it that way.
It's interesting too, George, like because we've done so many videos. We talk all the time, obviously, and stuff. And your Celestial Park opinion, I think, is important, especially because I feel like it kind of showcases the importance of visiting these things in real life. Because, like, a lot of people, like in the internet, they do a lot of judging with whatever it is, Universal, Disney, whatever. But when you actually go somewhere, it's a completely different vibe. You saw a lot of footage. We report on this stuff day in and day out. You've seen video after video, picture after picture. But when you went, it was a completely different thing. And that's the importance of visiting these things in real life, right? Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I always say, I'll give my opinion, I'll give my thought process of what I think it's going to be like, but I'll reserve judgment until I actually see for myself. And I have to say, you can go back to any of my videos that we like on Citrico Central or on here with Orange Grove 55. And I was saying, like, hey, I don't know, like it just seems like it's just like open land. There's like nothing there. There's like, but I tell you what, it's very hard to describe. Like the second that I walked towards like where the statues and the sculptures were with the fountains and everything, it just gave me like that like Greek kind of Odyssey like kind of vibe. And then, as I said, they have like the music blasting and it like ties in with the fountains, and you see the Helios in the back. The way that like of how like the sun is rising, it's like they knew like where to place it, of where the sun was rising, because of how it like reflects off of the Helios into the water. It was
like a bunch of Egyptian architects.
Well, aliens built it, by the way. Steve Tatham, who is a creative director, I'm a huge fan of like Mark Woodbury and Steve Tatham. Steve Tatham is a former Imagineer that's kind of the creative director of Epic. He had talked about how they did position those things to take into account the sunrise and the sunset and all those things. And I agree. I think part of what makes this park so unique and that I love is the music. There's every land you're immersed into the music. Celestial Park has its own music flair to it. You go into Super Nintendo World, it's in there. You go into Isle of Berk, it's playing there. It's playing on the coaster. Like so much of it. You think about movies, how much music is an integral part of how it makes you feel. I think the music is a part of this that sometimes it's hard to know. Like music hits that other part of your brain too, where it just can make you feel a certain way. And I think that is part of it. But yeah, I mean, I love Celestial Park, but during the daytime you will bake. It is hot there, but at night once the sun goes down, it's but perfect.
I've also noticed too, Isle of Berk and Super Nintendo World, those were the 2 lands I felt like drew the most heat. Like I mean, it was hot anywhere, but it was like those were the 2. Like it just felt like, I don't know if that's just how like where like the sun was positioned that day, but it just felt like anytime we were in Isle of Berk or Super Nintendo, it just got really like extra hot.
Well, Super Nintendo is kind of a heat sink because it's that double story. So when you're on that bottom floor, it definitely feels a little hotter there. You don't have nearly the airflow down there that you might in, say, Dark Universe or those ones that are more, I guess, ground level. But I think Isle of Berk too, you've had that. It is a hot one. It could be where it's positioned, but maybe some of it's like the reflecting off of the water because it's got a lot of water there as well. But yeah, it's in the summer. I mean, it is it's warm, and I think that's one reason why people travel other times of the year.
But Isle of Berk is like my all-time favorite land as a whole. I feel like I do agree. Like it feels like that's like the most completed.
Now, do you mean Universal Parks only, or Disney and Universal?
Oh no, just well, I'd say I think honestly just with Universal. Now I was actually just thinking just with Epic Universe, but being that you asked the question, like just Universal in general, I could actually see Isla Burke like as a whole land out of all three of the parks. I think that's like the most complete land for me.
I agree with that.
Universal has done a really good job with integrating the DreamWorks brand into the Universal family. I think it's become synonymous. It's kind of their Pixar at this point. You know, really smart. Really,
Did
really
you
smart.
check out the Untrainable Dragon, George?
Yes, I absolutely love that show. I mean, when Hiccup comes out riding on Toothless, and he's like just literally circling the crowd above you, like on the and the dragons are flying and everything. That was so good. It actually, that show reminded me a little bit. It wasn't the same amount of length, but it had the same quality that the Aladdin musical had at the Hyperion.
Okay.
Like when it first originally started, when you could still see like Aladdin and Jasmine riding on the carpet above like the crowd and everything. That was the moment I had watching The Untrainable Dragon.
Yeah, it's a cool, like from the production value and everything. I'm not a show person, but I love that show. Like it's really good.
What'd you think of Hiccup Swing Gliders?
I have to say, like I looked at that and I thought, oh, okay, this is like, I mean, I'm a coaster guy. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'll ride this little kiddie coaster, but I tell you what, that thing got some punch to it.
Does it?
It does. It's a lot of fun.
I told you, it's like a mini version of Hagrid's motorbike.
I've been calling it Baby Hagrid's. It's the same ride
Hagrid's.
manufacturer as Hagrid's. It's the same like story coaster concept, but at night it's even better because you get certain spots you can see the whole park. It's kind of like Big Thunder Mountain when you get to the top, you can kind of see into Cinderella's castle and stuff like that. Yeah. You get some really cool views, and you can actually see like the sightlines from like Stardust racers racing by and stuff.
And I felt bad because there was kids in front of us, and I'm just like not really anticipating, but the moment like where you shoot down into the terrain where it like curves into like where it looks like you're going into the water, not expecting how fast it was going to go, like, and I have these two kids in front of me and I'm like, oh shit.
Family park.
Yeah.
Oh man, so it's there's a thrill element for sure, but it's not overly crazy.
I will say probably OG to how you may be able to because of what you go on.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge thrill junkie.
I would say take Slinky Dog and then just tiny.
Yeah, I would agree.
Little notch.
Okay, I can do that. No worries there.
It's like we liked it as like it's just a lot of fun. It's just a fun coaster from beginning to end. You got the music playing. It takes you throughout the entire land. It's just a good fun, more thrilling than you anticipate type of coaster.
Animatronics to work.
Yep. They did work very well. That is cool when he puts that down and then it slings you out.
Yeah, that was cool. Mm-hmm. That was really good. It's actually kind of lengthy. Like I didn't I thought it was just going to be like a 30-second ride through, but I mean, it was a decently lengthy timed coaster. I
think it's over 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was, however, now with Minecart, that one, first of all, it wasn't really the length of time that bothered me. That ride is very rough. Now, I don't know if it was because I just had surgery 2 days prior, but I'm riding this thing and I'm thinking, should I even be on this damn thing? Because I was holding so tight, the way that it was maneuvering, it just it literally throws you around, and it just jerks you around, and it's not in a good way, but it just it was okay. I went on, we only waited about 20 minutes, but would I wait anything longer? No. And it probably wouldn't even be a ride that I would want to do. I would want to do constantly. Honestly, Goofy's Sky Skull for me was more smoother.
What? That's crazy. What do you think, Jared?
I think it's that arm. I can tell you it's even rougher if you ride it by yourself, because I rode it right before park closed, and it was me. I had the whole thing to myself. And I actually sat on the left side away from that arm. And because we rode it earlier in the day, and like it was a little rough, but it was still fun. And then by myself, that was a rough ride. Like I was getting like is jerking you around, and my back popped. I was like, oh my gosh!
It
like,
literally it cracked the tempered glass on Abby's phone.
Oh man,
yeah, because she had her phone in the little in the pouch of my fanny pack, and she had it around her body, and she moved it to the side because they said, the bar has to come down, you have to move. So she moved it to the side, but because of the motion of the vehicle, it actually cracked the tempered glass while it was inside the fanny pack.
I don't know. In my opinion, if a Donkey Kong ride isn't breaking your personal belongings, then is it really a Donkey Kong ride?
Well, I mean, that's a great point.
A runaway minecart. I mean, I do wonder though in the future, like if they're going to do a lot of maintenance on that, because you got to imagine most coasters get rougher as the years go along.
Sure.
And how does that one? But I think it is that sidearm, and you've got the weight distribution there, but it can be a little rough. I do.
I will say though, if the kidney stone wasn't stuck, that would be the ride for me to go on, for me to pass.
Well, which ride did they say? There's a Disney ride that they say if you have kidney stones to ride it. Is it Big Thunder Mountain?
Big Thunder.
Well,
yeah. Last seat on Big Thunder.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm down here where it's closed and refurbished. I can't win.
That's crazy. Now I gotta ask the $1 million question. I'm gonna ask all three of you guys this question actually. George, I'll start with you because you're kind of the newbie. Battle at Ministry. Yes. Or Monsters Unchained? Because these are the heavy hitters in this part. You know what I'm saying?
Battle at Ministry for sure, which was very surprising to me because I thought, okay, I'm gonna love it. It's another Harry Potter ride. It's gonna be great, but Monsters is gonna be so different and so unique. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love Monsters, but first off, the queue for Ministry, I feel like the queue is above Rise for me. And the reason why I say that is because when you look at it through the optic lens of how it was in the movie, you would literally think it was filmed there. That's like how every little single detail, we're not saying that the Rise of the Resistance, queue isn't grand and but it doesn't resemble anything that you're familiar with watching on screen. But inside the Ministry of Magic, literally the scope of that thing, I think honestly majority of the budget of Epic went just for that ride.
So you can see you had a coming to Jesus moment when you walked in.
Literally, yes. Yeah. Because
I was like taken away when I walked in. I was like,
oh, it was, and I even had it, and I was recording, so like it's shown on my vlog where we're going through the flu powder and everything going through and ending up on the other side, and I'm like, holy shit, like this thing is like massive, and like the attention to detail, it was like I could just, and it's the ride, and that was our first ride of the day, and it said it was like at a 90-minute wait, and I told Abby, I was like, the ride is still working. First off, it's like it didn't break down yet, and I thought I don't want to take our chances. I think 90 minutes, because that's
pretty good.
Agreed that was our cap, like an hour and a half to wait for a ride, and I thought let's just do it. I don't know if it was just because we were so captivated by the queue and we were just looking at the details that the line moved very quickly, but it didn't seem like we waited 90 minutes. It really felt like, I'd say between like 50 to 60 minutes. But I will say too, before moving on to these other gentlemen, before I get into the details of the ride itself, the rooms are just as big as the queue.
What? No, you're like the show scenes?
They are.
The scenes.
What?
I don't even have, like, these rooms are massive.
It's insane.
Oh my! I'm in shock with that. So it's not like just all screens. Like you go into these physical rooms that are just
physical, like
gigantic.
Yeah, like the square footing of these rooms. You have to stop and think, like, how is this even a building? Like, that's how big, and it's not even just how big, but like depth. Like, how far down does this thing go? And the audio animatronics tied with the screen technology, you couldn't tell what was what.
That's fascinating. Okay, I'm intrigued. What say you, Jared? Monsters Unchained or Battle at Ministry?
I love Monsters. I think it's one of the best theme park rides I've ever been on. I think clearly Battle is better. Same thing with Georgia. You walk into that queue. I'm not the type to overreact, and I put that in a little my review of my portion walking in. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, it's just so, it's like, George, it looks like they filmed the movies there. The size and scope of it. And the one thing I like about it, like the scene of Rise of the Resistance, when you walk in, like that is also a cool scene, but you're very rushed because obviously you're captured and they're trying to move you along because they have more people coming behind you. In here, you can linger if you want. Like there's people in the back, you can take pictures. Like you don't have to get in the queue immediately. And I think they did that because a lot of people walking in are just like, what in the world am I seeing? And like it's same thing with Celestial Park. The pictures don't do it justice when you walk in and just see the scale and the scope of it and the details of, and the whole thing is like you're there for Dolores Umbridge's trial. So the other thing I like about it is you're in a ride queue, but technically in the ride in the system, you're in a line to go see Dolores Umbridge's trial. So it fits into, it's almost like a meta thing of like you're in line in the Ministry of Magic, but everyone's there for this, bad woman to go to jail. And you go through all the rooms you go through. Like it's the immersion in the entire queue is nuts. And like George said, the scenes you're in there, like I kept looking around. I'm just like, it was so big. It's like, it's mind boggling on some level. You're like, how did they do this? Like just the idea of it.
And also too, when it comes to the audio animatronics, how fluid they move.
Dude, it looks like a person.
You literally think it's a person in a costume.
What?
You would never think it's an audio animatronic.
So you're saying the animatronics there are better than the ones at Monsters Unchained?
Yeah. I have to say yes, because some of the audio animatronic, not all of them, some of them, you can still kind of depict as, okay, this is an audio animatronic. Where I think like with Ministry, even though they're technically wizards, you see them as human. Where with monsters, they're these mutant creatures.
They're kind of walking differently.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you see a Death Eater like moving his wand and moving and dodging and all that, it's really supposed to be a person. So when you take that attribute of an audio animatronic that is supposed to dictate the movement of an actual person, it was like you can't take your eyes off of it. It's like how mesmerizing, because not to give too much away, but like there's certain moments where an audio animatronic is battling a character on screen.
Wow.
But you can't really differentiate the two.
It's like 3D without having to have the 3D glasses. Like it's there, like in depth to you. And there's one part where one of them, he dodges something and he turns to you, and the way that they pull the wand, I remember just on the ride, and my wife Jamie's next to me, and I was like, that looks like a person. Like if you were to tell me there was a dude in a costume, I'd be like, yeah, like it doesn't look any different. Like the level of those things is on another level. Like the way that how fluid and like just how a person moves, and like it didn't even seem jerky at all. It just seemed like you were seeing a Death Eater straight from the movies.
And I'm just saying this to be sarcastic. I know for a fact it's an audio animatronic, but I think it would be funny behind the scenes if it really is a person and they're like, can I take a break now, please?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That'd be hilarious.
I mean, if one ever went out, they could put a person in there. No one would ever know the difference. They just be like, hey, we need you to wave this wand up here. I'm like, okay.
Steven Spielberg's back there cracking a whip.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and here's the frustrating thing too, in terms of like our California parks, is that the Avengers e-ticket that we're getting out here in DCA, Infinity Defense, it's a 3D attraction with glasses, right? It's like, and I feel like that's a step backwards, because like you guys were saying with this Battle at Ministry attraction, I mean, they're using screens, it's 3D without the 3D. I want to see more of that stuff.
See, that's what's worrying me about the
Avengers ride?
The Avengers ride, because I feel like that ride has been so prolonged in production that I feel like that the technology that is going to be used is newer technology for Disney, but not newer technology for the time.
For the industry, yeah. Yeah.
It also doesn't help that I don't want to say all the best, but somewhere in the vicinity of 200 to 300 Imagineers left Disney and went over to Universal Creatives. So that's also part of the big problem too. And they're bringing all this ingenuity and experience with them to Universal Studios, and Disney is not getting any of that. I mean, I think it's going to be a good ride. I do agree, but you're right. I think if they're still utilizing 3D, they're still very much in the middle of the 20 teens when somehow Universal Studios has managed to pull ahead and beyond that. And Universal, Monsters Unchained is very much the same way. Like the transition, especially in the Wolfman scene where the Wolfman comes around and then he like jumps around you and they pivot you like this, and then he starts fighting Frankenstein. It's very seamless. And the screens they're using, they're not the screens in Forbidden Journey. Like these things are probably $100,000 micro LED screens, which can push like infinite contrast and probably like 4,000 or 5,000 nits of brightness. Well, you're talking about things that are very, very expensive that can produce brightness and contrast levels that you just never seen before.
I wonder if Universal has some sort of proprietary tech on screens like that, because if you look at the Bourne Stuntacular, I think it's that same type of screen, and like it looks like Dolores Umbridge in there, and you have Harry, Ron, and Hermione. It looks like, it doesn't look like you're looking at a screen. It looks like you're looking almost at a 3D dimension.
Especially one of the end scenes where you see Dolores as an audio animatronic.
Yeah.
And then it transitions like within seconds to the screen. It's like your mind is saying, okay, I knew I was just looking at an audio animatronic, but now I'm looking at like the movement of a screen, but how it literally just seemed like where she was standing, it was like, boom, okay, she's like really flying in the air. And
the calibration of the lighting from the screen to the animatronic is just, and that's why I can't talk about Ministry because I haven't written it yet, but at least in Universal Monsters Unchained, the calibration is just perfect. Like when it goes from screen to animatronic, you're just like, oh shit.
Is it similar to like what like, it kind of reminds me like when you guys describe it, like what Lucasfilm uses for that volume for like filming like The Mandalorian, where they stand in front of that giant.
It's probably pretty similar. I would imagine. Yeah.
And it's just still even the layers, because there is also a scene where you have a character that's on a screen that is interacting with an actual set piece, which is the elevator. But then you have another screen inside the elevator where you see Harry, Ron, and Hermione getting shaken in there. So you have a screen interacting with a set piece, and a screen is inside of that.
That's crazy, dude. That's absolutely crazy. Now, the thrill factor, is this Tower of Terror or not nearly as intense?
No. It doesn't have that factor, but it does have like a little bit of like a bouncy kind of.
So you feel like you're like you're floating. It doesn't feel like it's like you're constantly. Now, I do think they nerfed, from what I have been told, they're having issues with those ride sensors on the seats. And I think it's a lot like Rise of the Resistance, at least in Disney World, where they were having issues on that drop scene, or they would lose connection, is what I was hearing. I think it's the same thing as they had a bigger drop in there, but that's where they're having a lot of those issues with the sensors. And when we did it, it felt like there was supposed to be more of a drop there, because Dolores turns to you and kind of like does something, and you kind of move. But that was the part where you're supposed to have more of a drop.
And I thought I was, because I was like preparing myself.
I did too.
She's facing you, and then she goes like this. And you kind of feel that little like tug.
Right.
But like it was nothing more than that.
I'm guessing when the ride goes down, that is sort of like the B mode, and they just do it that way, because somebody, I think it was Ethan, somebody on Twitter was saying that they wrote it again after a couple of weeks, and that scene was much different. So I think one of the things to fix it, to make it more reliable, was they may have nerfed that a little bit in that part, but it's supposed to be more thrilling. It's not, I would say, and it is now, it's not a ton of thrills, but for me, the whole time I was just like, what am I watching? Like I want to write it again, because I know I missed so much, because I was just looking around, like just trying to figure out like, what am I seeing, and like the scale of it all.
I kick myself, because we were on our way out of Epic, and I looked at the map, like it shows all the times, and it said 60 minutes, like before we were leaving. And I thought, man, but I'm like really getting tired. Like we were here the whole day, but I'm like, man, that is so tempting to just get back in line and just wait one more hour just to ride it one more time.
I would have done it. We had a 2-hour drive home, And we were like, should we ride it again? And we were like, we already spent 5 hours waiting for this ride already. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. So we went and did other stuff. But the first thing I wanted to do was go right back on that line and just do it again, because I feel like I missed a ton, because the story's going on, and half the time I'm like, oh yeah, what did I miss? Because I'm looking at the animatronic, and like you go in and out of those buildings, like George was saying, it's like floor to ceiling. Yeah. How tall do you guess those are, George? Like 3 stories?
It has to be.
I would imagine
it has to be, because it's like, if the depth of it, yeah, like from top to bottom, and then even from front to back, like of what is even behind you that you can't see,
right?
Because you have to be traveling in that space, and then you have to see what's in front of you, and then when you turn and everything, and then also that massive magical creature rhino thing.
Oh, the rumpet
audio animatronic is gigantic. So to even fit that thing in the building alone, it's
what?
Yeah, that has to be.
You guys are like blowing my mind right now. Like you're all these giant rhinos and crazy. Like I'm like, what is going on with this thing?
I'm gonna say a bold statement, because now I live over in California. If I had any opportunity to keep on going on Ministry, I would gladly fly over
just
cross
for that
country to ride Ministry.
Okay.
I mean, I want to go back just to do it again. Like, I want to take our daughter's gotten into Harry Potter movies, and she wants to ride it. And I was like, I wish I could experience all of this without having experienced it before. Like the first time you witness it, you're just like, you're so blown away. Like, I want to watch her go through it. And like, whenever you come over, I just want to go with you and watch you experience the queue for the first time. Like, I think that's the thing. It's like, it's just so, you're around theme park stuff, you know what to expect from rides, and this just takes that and just like blows the top off.
Yeah, I would gladly have someone pay for my flight over so I can enjoy it.
Yeah, of course. Now, Slimer, do you concur with these two gentlemen? I mean, is it the better attraction between that and Monsters?
Oh, I haven't ridden Battle of the Ministry yet. I still have yet to do that one. I've been waiting for the park to open and for my chances of getting on to be pretty much guaranteed before I actually go back. We didn't have the opportunity to do it the first time because we couldn't get the virtual queue, but now that the regular queue is open, I'm definitely considering.
I think honestly, this is probably your time now, bro. I think.
Yeah, I actually had a talk with Christy about it today.
Yeah,
I think these next 2 weeks would be a really good window to take advantage of the crowds, because like even today, I think it was down to a 30-minute wait by almost park close.
Yeah, and it's probably not even 30 minutes. Now let me ask you this, and this isn't like a trick question, because I feel like being being wowed with technology is one thing, but then just the fun factor also has to, like, it has to be fun too, like Rise of the Resistance for me is extremely fun, despite the fact that it's highly advanced when it comes to like technology and things like that. And so is like Flight of Passage. Are these rides as fun as Rise of the Resistance and Flight of Passage, or are you so busy being mind blown by what you're seeing that it almost like takes away the fun and the enjoyment of the ride?
I think Jared wait, Jared, did you only ride it once?
I rode it once.
Okay. I don't want to answer that just yet, because I want to ride it like one more time.
I agree.
Because I feel like with just riding it one time, you get that awe and wow factor, where now I kind of know what to expect. I want to go on it now and see, like, how fun really is it compared to other rides? Because just the technological standpoint alone, the storyline of the audio animatronics and everything is flawless. Like when everything is working, that ride is so pristine.
Yeah, I agree. I need to do it again, but this, like I was saying, the entire immersion, the story, I think makes a ton of sense in terms of like everyone hated her from the movies, and you want to see her in jail.
And that is like one of the most genius things that they could do for a ride, because it's like, instead of repeating themselves and say, oh yeah, let's do Voldemort again, let's do the Dementors. Like, it's like, okay, what else can we do to create an antagonist? And it's like,
right.
Dolores is like, she's not an official Death Eater, she's not working literally side by side with Voldemort, but she is someone that you just love to hate.
Yep.
And it's just like, her presence is just like, you just have like that ick factor when you see her.
I hated her more than Voldemort in the movies.
Well, I mean, technically, I just described my ex-wife. Now we can
there it is. There it is. We saw
it. We got it. I will say, I had a lot of fun on it. I think that there's a scene in the time room that is, holy cow! Like when the time, it's like I'm not going to give away, but kind of disintegrating when they're going through it.
Oh yes. Yes.
That, and then like the rhino thing is a lot of fun. Like there's a lot of really fun, cool scenes, but I would need to write it again to kind of have that like wow factor sort of out of the way. But I do think it's, from the one time, I'll just say tentatively, I think it's just as much fun of a ride as Rise of the Resistance is. And it's just, it's crazy. But again, I need to write it again to really sort of process everything. Kind of like Monsters. First time I wrote Monsters, I was like, I need to do it again. Because I feel like I couldn't.
Could we dive into that one?
Oh, let's do it.
I have positives, but I have some
nitpicks.
There's some rough spots in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I pointed before. You can see that curtain. You can see the concrete floor right after first Dracula, and you can see those folding chairs that are still there. I don't know why those are still there.
They got folding chairs just sitting out there.
Yeah, you can see them pretty clearly. And I saw it during the previews, and I was like, surely maybe they fix it. They did add some haptic feedback to the seat, so they kind of vibrate like a controller does, like on a video game. But yeah, that's still there. And I was like,
sounds like a good shirt idea, Jared.
Which one? Just
some folding like you have like Dracula and then like some folding chairs.
Good idea, actually. Apparently, people are complaining that Dracula doesn't have boots either, and I was like, "Why? I didn't think Dracula would have boots. He was in a coffin. Like, where's he going to get boots?" But
yeah, exactly. That's a strange. I haven't heard that complaint, but that's an interesting one.
I've seen people go off about it. I was like, "Well, okay."
But it's weird because the ride is phenomenal. A lot of the audio animatronics, top notch. But yeah, there are certain moments where, like, if they have you like kind of like laying on your back and you're looking upward, you can kind of see like the light, like the strobe lights kind of, and you can kind of see the scaffolding, like where if the ride is broken down, they have like the mechanics up on that scaffolding thing. It's like it almost like there's moments where it looks like the behind the scenes is actually in the front of the show. And it's like, to me, that stuff should be hidden.
I think they honestly need to lower the lights a little bit, because I think if it was a little darker, you wouldn't see that stuff. And then when you go into one of the scenes, you can see the ride vehicles. And I think if it's just a little darker in there, you wouldn't see that stuff, and it'd feel more immersive with the screens and what's going on in there. I feel like a lot of it is fixable with some small tweaks, but yeah, there are some spots in there where you're like, once you see it once, like the chairs, I see it every time now. I'm just like,
I've never seen the chairs. I honestly wish that they would move the arm closer to the animatronics though. Like I want it to be like in my face. Like I want this man to be like.
That's what I thought it was going to be like, because I remember the first time riding Forbidden Journey when you come face to face with Aragog, and I'm like, oh my God, like, and you don't even know he's right in front of you until it flashes the light.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Dementors that's like, they got their hand like close up to you. That's literally what I thought it was. And I agree with you, Slimer. I feel like that they could have just like inched us a little bit closer, because I would love to feel like that hot breath and like, like, it's like, wow, like that intimidating, like I'm like a hair inch away from Dracula or the werewolf. It just seemed like they just had us a little bit too farther away.
One thing that I would suggest to fans, and obviously when I say this, I mean in a constructive way, obviously, but G Prodigy is like super interactive with the fans. Like you can message him and he would message you back. He's a really cool dude, Yeah. And he was like the creative director for that attraction. I would tweet at him or message him and say, hey, what's going on with the folding chairs, things like that, in a respectful, polite, constructive way.
Right.
And I feel like that might make a difference, because he's very like, he listens, you know what I'm saying? And he talks to fans and stuff. And he was the dude, that's his attraction.
I have an even bigger question. Not to the fact that we can see folding chairs, but why are folding chairs even there?
I was wondering that too. Yeah, that is
interesting.
interesting.
It's like maybe that was my question too, because it's up high, like when you see it, because it's after you first see Dracula, before he kind of like gets loose, and you go over there. I'm guessing maybe it's like where people are on break, but I don't. It seems like very strange that they're still there. I heard some people saying you can see a loading ramp. I haven't been able to see that, but I just saw those chairs and stuff like that. But it's still a great ride. It's just got
the one part with Dracula, not where you see him when you first see him and you feel the heat and everything, where you see him and he's kind of like oversized, like he's gigantic. Is that an animatronic or is that on the screen?
That's an animatronic.
That's an animatronic.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, that thing is like massive, like the way that they have him.
The fact that you're even asking that is impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. And I thought, we wrote it twice and I'm thinking, is that an animatronic or is that a screen? And I knew, like, if we were going to, if I was able to come on the show with you guys, I had to ask if you guys knew, because I couldn't tell the difference.
It's
George,
very fluid, but yeah, it is an animatronic, but it's insane how well they do it.
George, what did you think about this right after he gets loose and then the brides start getting loose? What was your reaction? How did you take that scene? Because I thought that they went, like, they made it more complex than it had to be, and like it works very well. Like, I love how they have, for example, the brides flying around and they're in the foreground of a screen, and then in the background of the screen they have more brides flying around and just terrorizing the place. But what was your impression of that? Because that's when the whole experiment really starts to devolve and it gets chaotic. How did you like the execution of that?
Yeah, I feel like right after you see Dracula and then it like turns you, and then you just hear his voice and it echoes, like, and you see the brides like popping out, and then I love how they intertwine where you see the audio animatronic form of them, but then it moves like to where you see them moving in and out, like with the screen, sort of like Slimer, how you even mentioned with the werewolf, where it's like
Wolfman,
you see him and then he jumps, and then you can they have you on your back and you can hear him like on top crawling, and then as you're like circling around, that's when he like lunges at you, and that's where they take your picture. And then it moves seamlessly into the screen. And not the werewolf, Wolfman. But I love how they did that with the brides, because I felt like it wasn't something that, like, obviously, like when I watched it, like bits and pieces of YouTube, like that was something that I never really would have thought that they would have leaned towards, with the storyline, but it worked. I loved how they just kind of like threw them everywhere. It's like you saw like a creepy mutant bride here, and then you turn and then you see her there, and then you see her there. It's like my honeymoon all over again.
Oh, there we go. Number 2. There we go. I love it. Now I want to ask you guys, is it HHN level jump scares with this attraction, or is it more subdued?
It's more subdued. Yeah, okay. I think a lot of this ride, it takes elements from Halloween Horror Night Houses, like when you're going through the queue, but it's not the like jump out and get you type of stuff. It's like how you
could have had us closer to them.
Yeah, it could.
Unexpected. That's where it would probably.
I do like on the Wolfman when you first encounter him, he's like eating somebody, and they splash water on your face, so it's supposed to be like blood gets on you, and then he runs around. To me, the other one, the 2 scenes I like the best are when you see Phantom of the Opera, and when you first get in there, and he turns around.
He's actually my favorite audio animatronic in there.
It's so good. He's so big, and like the flames are right. Like that's one that you're really close to him. And then the Frankenstein where he does the electricity, like it looks real. Like it really looks like Frankenstein. Yeah,
let me tell you, look, dude, the Phantom of the Opera is great because, first they show the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's the one that's hanging upside down in the bell.
Yeah, in the bell.
But he doesn't move. So you're like, okay, I guess this is what I'm gonna get into. And then they show the Hunchback of the Phantom of the Opera, and then when he turns around and like tries to grab you like this and goes back to playing the organ with the flames coming out of it, and that's when you're just like, oh, it's gonna be this kind of a ride.
Yeah, that's like the first thing you see, and you're like, okay, all right.
Yeah. I think the two for me is the Phantom of the Opera, and then the gigantic mummy.
That one's cool.
Yeah.
Was he working for you?
It worked both times for me.
Oh, cool.
It wasn't working in the previews of the second preview, but the opening day it was working.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another reason I had to go back to see the mummy. One of my favorite animatronics was the creature from the Black Lagoon, because you don't see him coming. They just pivot your ride vehicle towards the ground, and then the light turns on. He's like right there, like going like this. And you're just like, oh shit.
Although I wish they had him like in what seemed like water. I think it would have a better effect. Like if he's like coming from the water or something, like because he's just kind of there. It's still really cool. But yeah, they do kind of like lower you down on top of him, and you're just like, oh my goodness. And he's just,
This ride sounds so Universal in like the best way.
Yeah, I think it Universal Monsters. Like I said, it's got elements of Halloween Horror Nights. It's got, I think they took a lot of beats from that in terms of the queue. But yeah, it's like, if you like monsters, this thing's got all of them. And like I said, it's got a couple of things. But like Battle is a better ride, but I think this one is still a top tier, one of the best theme park attractions that's ever been made.
And the Kuka arm technology is much smoother than Forbidden
it's so smooth, yeah.
Well,
and my wife has motion sickness, and it doesn't make her. She gets insanely sick on Forbidden Journey. I think it's a mix of those screens and the way they pull you in and out. She doesn't have any issue with monsters.
Nice. Now, how? Because I'm claustrophobic. The Forbidden Journey vehicles are pretty tight. Is it similar to that, or is it a little more open?
There's a little bit more room on these. The two inner seats are meant to, if you're a bigger person, to fit in there more. I'm the same way. And Forbidden Journey, when they pull that thing tight on my chest, I'm just like, oh. But this one, they pull it tight, but it's not directly on your chest. It kind of comes under, so you don't feel like you're just smashed into that chair. And it's a little bit more comfortable in there, I think. So it's not. And the area where you load and unload is also massive. Like that, when they take everybody on and off there, it's so you don't ever feel like you're just cramped. You actually feel like you're just in these wide open spaces.
Cool.
Yeah, the loading area is pretty fun. It's a torture chamber. It's a circular torture chamber, and it has these big pylons with spikes on them. And so the idea is they put people in there, and these things just move around. They just ground people into bits, and they probably feed, use them to feed the Dracula and werewolf. But George, let me ask you, what was your impression of Nintendo Land? Everything from going into the portal, how does it compare to the Hollywood version?
Good question.
What's your?
I'm curious about what you think about that.
Okay. Well, remember what I said about Celestial Park? I'm gonna eat my words the same with Nintendo.
What?
Because I actually like the effect of going up, even though it's an escalator. I like the effect. It actually makes you feel like you're shooting through the warp pipe, because it just doesn't make you just feel like, okay, you're just going up an escalator. Like they have it encircled like within where you're going. So when you're looking upward, you can actually see like the tunnel, and you see the lights shooting. It's going through, and as you're going up. That was my very bad impression of what it sounds like.
And it does it like in a 3D echo effect too. Like you hear it behind you, then it goes in front of you, and then it goes behind you. Yeah, it's cool.
And I love how it still has the same feel of how it is over at Universal Hollywood, but on a much grander scale. I love the layers of Super Nintendo World, where it's like you have how many different platforms, because you have to basically go down, a flight of stairs or what have you, to get from each thing. And you have Yoshi, the Yoshi ride going. I wish that they had Yoshi going around the whole entire perimeter.
I did too. Yeah,
like, that would have been so cool. But on my live that I did on Citrico Central, I got, and I told the parents, and they didn't care. They didn't bother. I said, I won't get them on camera. I said, I just have to see the reaction. These two young boys, you would have thought that they met Elvis. Like they were standing outside of the Super Nintendo World portal. And these two boys, one had to be like 11. The other one was like maybe 8 or 9. Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, look at this. What is this? And I went over to the parents. I was like, please, I'm not a stalker. I'm just like, can I follow you? I have to see the reaction. And like they walked into the land, and they were just so beside themselves. They were so elated. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to think of it. The one boy ran over and hugged his dad, like out of excitement and everything. They didn't know what to do. And I thought, okay, that was like a real true Kodak hallmark moment, that you saw these two young boys. And I got it on my live. I got it. Like I literally, these two boys, they were so genuine of their reaction to actually feel like that they were walking into Super Mario.
I would have died as a kid because I mean, my generation was like I was a kid in like the 80s, you know what I'm saying? And then the NES, Super Nintendo, that was all the rage back then.
Mm-hmm.
At my local mall, we never had like a Nintendo store, but we had like a Capcom store at my local mall. And just walking into the Capcom store, I was like geeking out. Like, this is the best thing ever. If they had this land when I was a kid, I would have lost my marbles. I would have been like these kids. Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's 8, my son's 5, and when they walked into it, like I geeked out when I first went into it. They were kind of the same way. They both play the Switch, and we play the Nintendo games and stuff together.
Yeah.
And our daughter was just like, oh, like it just took her a second. She's just, and it's like, it's such a cool thing to see it through a kid's eyes of something like they're actively playing, and it legitimately is like the game comes to life. Like you got Princess Peach's castle, you got all this stuff going on. They loved the Yoshi ride. They rode it like 3 times, even though it's a very simple ride. But yeah, it's those reactions are cool.
I didn't really care for. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it as how I thought I would. Even though I didn't really care for the Minecart Madness, the Donkey Kong Land.
Oh yeah,
is phenomenal. I love how they integrated it like off of Mario.
Yep.
Now they have it tucked away in the back where it's like it's its own thing, but it's still connected. And I hope that when they do expand that area, because I'm for sure they'll add more IP for Nintendo, I hope they utilize that same process where it integrates, but it feels like its own thing.
Do you guys think that, like, and I'm not even gonna say when. I mean, I'm not even gonna say if, because I think Zelda is coming. We see the Easter eggs all over the park, right? It's coming. But do you think they're gonna do what George is saying, where it's gonna be like another portal off of Nintendo World? I don't know how the spacing is over there, if they can even do that, or will Zelda be like its own portal?
I think it'll be that expansion pad from Nintendo is kind of when you're on Minecart Madness, you go over there. That expansion portal is kind of to the side and behind it, I think. So my guess is it would be like Donkey Kong Country, where it's got its own portal from Super Nintendo World inside of it. I don't think they would do its own dedicated portal for Zelda. I think they would keep it all encompassed into Super Nintendo World.
Makes sense.
They might have multiple. I don't know if you have to walk through Donkey Kong Country to get to it, but I think they could add something where you can get to it more from like Mushroom Kingdom. But
do you think Epic is getting Luigi's Mansion? Because I heard from several people while they're leaning more towards.
I've heard both. I've heard Zelda and I've heard Luigi's Mansion. People were reading into Mark Woodbury had on a Luigi power-up band, and people were like, oh, is he telling us something? I'm like, well, Mark Woodbury also said his favorite Hogwarts house was Hippogriff. So I was just like, well, I don't know if,
obviously.
I think Luigi's Mansion, personally speaking, I think Luigi's Mansion would be pretty awesome.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, because it's like Haunted Mansion, but then you have that interactivity like a Midway Mania maybe or something like that, where you can, or actually, you know what it would be like? Would be like that the Tokyo version of the Monsters Inc. ride, the hide and go thing they have.
Yeah.
You could. Now, George, what did you think of Mario Kart compared to Hollywood's?
Oh yeah, good question.
So here's the thing: we were gonna go on Mario Kart. We actually didn't get a chance to go on it. However, I did talk to my cousin today, and she actually sent me the footage of, because she was one of the test people where her husband was working on Super Mario Mario Kart when it was still in development, and I actually got to watch a little video of it, because she always described it to me for how many years, but I never got to see like what it actually looked like. The little video clip that she sent me when it was in the testing, that's how I wish Mario Kart would have been, because you could watch it and it's like while she's driving it and she turns, the back end of the cart swerves and it turns you, and it's like you're just like whipping all over the place. And I'm like, and her husband actually said, this is the route we need to go. And they said, well, let's do AR. And he said, oh no, that's not a good idea. But because of the cost cuts and with everything, unfortunately, that was the route that they had to go for. But I think honestly, to still go on that, I don't really think my opinion would change on that. I just feel like that it's just one of those rides that they're just, when I say too much is too much. I feel like that if they would have like picked a route to go, um, I feel like that, that would have been the best bet. But because they have practical sets with AR, and then you're like bobbing your head up and down trying to hit something, and it's supposed to be the illusion that you're going fast without going fast. I just feel like it's just too much. Where like with Ministry it works because it's like it's seamless, but like when you have like these things that are like individual, but you're trying to shove them all into one scene. But we were going to go on it though. We really were, and I thought, you know what, we might as well do it, but we didn't get a chance to. But not saying that I wouldn't try, because I am very curious to see if there really is any kind of.
That's what I was wondering. The differences. I heard there are subtle differences, but I've never ridden the one in Hollywood, so I don't know what to compare it to. But I personally, for what it is, I like Mario Kart. I enjoy it, but it's not. I understand everything you're saying about it. That there's probably better ways in which to do it.
Yeah.
But I do like the Rainbow Road scene. That one to me is a ton of fun when you get into that part and go around. Like, it's, as a Mario Kart fan, I was like, okay, this is cool.
Now, I will say the Super Nintendo world as a whole, as a land, I actually think is very impressive of how it is done in Florida.
Better than Hollywood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because Hollywood is very claustrophobic and cramped.
Yeah.
This one seems like you got more room to work with.
I know this one's the biggest one in the world.
Mm.
I'm almost certain about that one. So, yeah.
You know what would have been kind of cool? I mean, everything's in hindsight, but I would have liked to seen a Mario Kart attraction with similar tech to like Radiator Springs Racers, where you're on that track and you're like, ski. You know, that would have been cool. But again, to be fair to Universal, though, this was a licensing partnership. So it's like Nintendo has say in this stuff too, and we don't know what Nintendo was telling them to do, you know?
Oh, Nintendo is very controlling. So I can imagine they were like, we're doing it this way or we're not doing it. I could totally see Nintendo being that way about it.
I could see them pushing the augmented reality aspect of the ride as well. I mean, you got to remember Nintendo, they did come out with Virtual Boy for a little bit there. And do you guys remember Virtual Boy at all?
I do remember Virtual Boy.
Yeah. It was a horrible platform. It was all in 2D. It was like two colors. It was monochromatic, and they were obsessed with virtual reality. I mean, this was back when virtual reality was trying to push the boundaries of video gaming, and it just never really took off. Like Panasonic had their own version, Nintendo, everybody had their own version of some failed virtual reality system. But I think Nintendo probably wanted to come back to that and say, hey, you know what? We actually did do a good virtual reality system. It's augmented reality, and it's in the new Nintendo ride. But I mean, it works for me. I enjoy that ride.
It's fun,
I prefer to Midway Mania. I really don't think Midway Mania is fun, you know. But in terms of shooters, it's probably one of the better ones. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's a video game ride, you know. So expecting more from it is not really realistic. And yeah, I kind of wish you had your own go-kart so you could drive, and that'd be cool. But yeah, there had to be some more controlled elements in there, and Nintendo probably played a big part of it.
Now, kind of on the subject, but off the subject. Obviously, we could all pretty much agree that Pokemon is going to end up coming into the picture some way or another for Universal. Do you think they would lean more of that into Epic by adding that to Nintendo, or do you see that going into one of the other parks?
I think it's going to be its own thing.
I've heard it's going into where the Simpsons is. That's the biggest rumor I've heard for years. I haven't heard anything different other than it would replace that once they get rid of that contract.
I think that how they integrate Pokemon in Universal Studios, if that's the direction they want to go, matters. Because if it replaces, like you said, Simpsons Land, and then you introduce this, like, I don't know, like cartoon-based land, you're replacing a cartoon-based IP with another cartoon-based IP in Universal Studios, which is very much grounded in like movie sets and reality, like very much so, probably more so than the other parks. It's not as grounded in fantasy, because it's based off of making movies. And so I think it really depends on how they do Pokemon, whether it works or not. Like, obviously it's going to be popular either way, but I think that the approach to it can matter. Like for example, I would like to see them do because Universal Studios is based off of major cities in the United States. I'd like to see them do a land based on Tokyo.
Oh, I'll be sick.
And then you can integrate Pokemon into Tokyo. And then by integrating, by bringing it to Tokyo, maybe Universal Studios can get the licensing rights for Godzilla and have a Godzilla ride and then a Pokemon ride to go with, bring in 2 rides.
And for me, Universal seems like they're the champ when it comes to these very complex but subtle moments, like even like in Isle of Berk, where you have like all these dragons everywhere and they're interacting with the guests and everything. They're very complex, but it's like they're very impressive. So it's like when you look at that and you also look at the puppetry that they use for HHN and also that they did this past FanFest, I can imagine like what they could do with Pokemon. Like on a grand scale, like with like Onyx and Gyarados and like all these gigantic Pokemon.
Yeah,
I don't know much about Pokemon. All I know is it is insanely popular, and I think it would be a huge hit. But I know Pikachu. That's all I know. But yeah, I do imagine. Yeah, I could see them having fun with doing that. But that Pokemon is not owned by Nintendo, right? It's owned by a separate company, or it's like a co-thing.
I think it's a co-thing, from what I understand. Yeah, I think it's like a co thing, but I'm telling you, after this FanFest thing, I completely underestimated the popularity of anime here in the States. That One Piece stuff was so massive. I wouldn't put it past Universal to even do some sort of One Piece attraction or something one day.
I think they could. We talked about it before. I think they could, if any park would do it. I think they would. Is do something with the anime. I looked it up. So Pokemon is owned by Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures Inc. So it's like a 3-way joint entity.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That might make it a little complex with the licensing arrangements because now you're dealing with 3 parties, kind of,
Yeah.
But I'm sure Universal will make it happen.
It's the thing I heard. The rumor out there is still like I haven't heard anything different. I think that when's the Simpsons contract up? 28 technically, and I've heard they may end it earlier because now Disney owns it. They're not going to renew it anyways, so they could just hurry up with it. But yeah,
100%. Fascinating conversation today, guys. I cannot wait to go to this park. I think it sounds amazing. So when I get there, hopefully soon, we'll see when I can get down there. But I'm really, really excited for this place. But
we'll all have Bass Pro hats and we'll break in the park. I just want to see your face when you walk into Battle with Ministry. That's what I want to say. I just want to just put a camera on you and just watch you react to it because
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have a heart attack. From what I was not expecting, because I haven't seen any POVs or anything. So
don't.
Okay. Now wait, OG. Now let me ask you this. Now, obviously, you'll have a Kodak moment reaction just seeing the scope of it in general. Right. But are you familiar with the films?
With my ex-girlfriend, we did a Harry Potter marathon like in 2014. So that's the last time I saw them. It's been a while.
So I will say this. You don't have to watch all the movies.
Okay.
But watch Order of the Phoenix.
Gotcha.
Watch Order of the Phoenix before
experiencing
Ministry, because then that way you can get a refresher of how very exact it is.
Okay, cool. Good advice. Yeah, I saw that we did it. Because before 2014, I didn't see any of the movies, and she was a Potterhead, so she's like, "We're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch all of them." I'm like, "Okay, let's do this." We did a whole marathon, but that was 2014. We're talking like a decade now, So
I was about the same time frame. I was the same way. My wife, we watched them all in a batch around that same. We actually rewatched them recently because my daughter's been into it, so I actually did see that movie before going to do this, and that's what kind of blew me away. I was just like, it's just like the movie. Geez.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'll check it out. I remember really liking the movies though when I watched them. I'm just not the details.
Prisoner of Azkaban is the best one, I think, though.
I agree.
I love Sirius Black and Gary Oldman. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I agree. Alfonso Cuarón, the way that he directed that movie, it was just so different compared to how the other movies were done.
And they really set the tone for the movies going forward.
That was the first one. It's grown up. You get serious. What happens there? Yeah, where you have stakes involved.
I'm very curious too. This new series and everything that they're doing. I'm wondering how that's gonna pan out. Good.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
A lot of risk now that HBO is HBO Max again. They decided to change their name 3 different times in 3 years or whatever it is. But yeah,
a smart move. But they should have just kept it HBO. I don't know why they ever did that because HBO.
Do you think the series will ever get completed? Do you think
Oh,
like this will be like an on again, off again kind of thing, or do you think like it would end up like, dare I say it, like Willow? You know,
I
like
don't think so,
like
but it
where
could.
like one season is made, but it's like it doesn't really go.
Well, it could be like, I mean, what's the Lord of the Rings one? Rings of Power. That one is probably only going to have 3, maybe 4 seasons because the ratings just aren't there. They Amazon just canceled the Wheel of Time, and that was a really big one they bought too. So I think if the ratings are there, they'll keep doing it. But if I don't know, that's an uphill battle to redo that franchise with new actors, and you're going against a lot of nostalgia.
They've learned nothing from Disney's experience with Lucasfilm and the fan base, like nothing at all. They said, yeah, that whole thing that happened with Disney purchasing Star Wars and recasting characters, and you know what, that only applies to Disney, but we're going to do it, and it's not going to affect us completely. Yeah. I think they're going to get a lot of pushback from the fan base. I think you're just going to get outright rejection of different actors playing the same characters that are in the books. And, I mean, it might be good, but despite the fact of it being good, really doesn't matter if nobody's tuning in to watch it, right? So, like, all that matters is that people are turning it on and watching it. Those view hours are the only thing that matter. And you're going to have a lot of people that just don't even bother watching it because to them, Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter, and the bad guy from Die Hard is
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
That's Alan Rickman.
Yeah. So, it's gonna be
tough. That's some big shoes to fill. I mean, and like even like with Dumbledore, with like Sir Michael Gambon, like that, who was, I mean, he was Dumbledore, and nothing against John Lithgow. I think he's a tremendous actor, but again, I feel like, and this was my issue with a lot of already big time known actors stepping into a role that had already been taken or even like developed, because now it feels like, oh, it's John Lithgow playing Dumbledore.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully there's enough of the beard to kind of cover where you don't get that, but it's a risk.
And I can't picture him in a beard.
No, I mean,
in my head, I'm just like, I remember him from like, he was really good in Dexter, that like season 3 or 4, whichever one that was.
And Night Court.
Yeah, like him in a beard, I'm just like, I don't know how this is gonna look at all, but yeah.
We'll see. Slimer, you had a final thought. You were
So before you exit out, I wanted to ask Jared and George might have the answer in a couple of days once he finishes his round around Disney World. But where do you rank Epic Universe in your pantheon of domestic theme parks?
Oh, yeah, good question.
Oh man, I mean, Magic Kingdom is kind of its own category in many ways in terms of what that park is, the history of everything with it. Personally speaking, just from some of the newness factor, I mean, the park I want to go back to right now is Epic Universe. I do think, trying to be objective, I think I like it better than Hollywood Studios. Definitely better than Animal Kingdom. I mean, Epcot's a unique one. I probably, to me right now, I'll put it this way. I would put it in my top 3.
Okay.
And without having to really, I need to really break that down more.
Well,
but that's fun. But the ride factor and the immersion, I think, is just different with Epic on many.
Let me ask you a question, Jared. I'm very curious because I'm a vibes guy. Like I like rides. I go on rides, but I'm a vibe kind of guy. So I love Animal Kingdom a lot. Mm-hmm. Being a vibes guy, though, will I love this park?
I think this park is vibes. Celestial Park is a vibe. Like, each land has its own unique atmosphere about it. Like, cool. Dark Universe at night is completely different than during the day. Like, it just creates an entire different reveal and atmosphere to it. Yeah, I mean, Celestial Park alone, I think you'll be like George. Like, you'll just be like, I just want to hang out in here. Like, it's just awesome. Cool with the music and the lights and the fountain. Like, it's one of the only parks I've been in where I'm just like, I don't have to constantly be doing something all the time. I can just sit there and just we were at one point, we were just kind of chilling. I was like, let's just sit around the fountain. And just
I agree with Jared. I feel like Epic is the unique factor that it has the rides, but you could also have the vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I feel like you don't even have to go on a single ride,
and you're still good.
And you can be satisfied and walk through Isle of Burke and go through Celestial Park or even Super Nintendo World and just admire everything of the details that are in each land. And I think you would have a fulfilling day.
And really, every land is extremely, with the exception of Wizarding World, every land is extremely kinetic. I mean, you have the Burning Blade. You have, I mean, just in Dark Universe alone, you have the Burning Blade. You have the Invisible Man round and out and about. Then you have the electricity coming in and out of Frankenstein Manor. Then you have, of course,
it's funny you say that, Slimer, because I wanted to be the Invisible Man when my ex-wife was on the Burning Blade.
That's great. Man, you're on a roll today, George. That's number 3.
By the way, Invisible Man is he'll sit there and like people go up to him and he'll just stare at him. And he like won't move. Like he's got so much sass about him.
Oh, yeah, he does. Like, when he's ready to talk to you, he makes the move. Like you can attempt to try. If he's not ready,
he'll just sit there and glare at you. If you're filming like the monster or the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein meet and greet is really. If you mention Dracula, by the way, Frankenstein reacts like very strongly because he doesn't like Dracula. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I agree. They all have very unique atmospheres all about them.
Yeah. And so George, so that's top 3 for Jared. What about you?
Ooh. Okay, I actually.
Now be careful, George. We have special access. You don't want to lose that.
Now you've been to DCA, Hollywood, and Disney.
And I've never been to Disneyland, so obviously my perspective is going to be different.
Jared's in the Florida only version.
I'm a Florida man.
See, I think for me, oh God, I'm going to get heat for this one. I would put Epic. Oh gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this. Above Magic Kingdom for me.
Wow.
Right now, because for me, being so adjusted and customized to Disneyland now that I became a California local, comparing Magic Kingdom now is like that for me. Magic Kingdom was always the top dog for me, and it is internationally, like with people coming, it's still the top number 1 theme park, and that's great, but. When I go to Magic Kingdom tomorrow, I'm going to have a blast. I'm going to have a great time. I haven't been there in how long, but it's going to feel very different because I'm so used to going to Disneyland, and there's so much more to Disneyland. But for me, being a vibes, a rides, a thrill junkie, a roller coaster enthusiast, Magic Kingdom right now doesn't fill those voids for me. I get a lot more out of Epic. So until I see what comes to Magic Kingdom with cars and villains, Epic to me is above Magic Kingdom. Now, I feel like for me, Epcot and Animal Kingdom fall to what Jared says for Magic Kingdom for him. I feel like Animal Kingdom and Epcot fall in their own categories for me because they're 2 very different theme parks that you probably won't get ever again. You will never probably see another Epcot or another Animal Kingdom. So they're kind of, even though the hype for them really isn't as high right now, but I feel like they're their own kind of category. But like when it comes to immersive like rides and themed lands, I honestly, Epic takes over Magic Kingdom for me.
That's wild. We could have had another Epcot, but we dropped the ball over here with West.
I knew that was coming.
By the way, speaking of Epcot, I know maybe you guys agree, Slimer and George, I could see them doing some sort of food festival in Celestial Park.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
They have the space for it.
So I'm telling you right now, perfect. Celestial Park, Greek Festival.
Yep.
Like,
oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And I'm very curious what they do for Halloween and Christmas. Like, I want to see Celestial Park with Christmas lights, and like they do, like what they do for the holidays could be really interesting. Like Dark Universe at Christmas, I imagine that could be really cool. Like it's still haunted, but it's kind of like this spooky Christmas vibe. Like, there's so many things they can do with it.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, fantastic conversation. Jared, it's always fun having you on the show, brother.
I appreciate it. It's always a good time. Always a good time.
Where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
I'm at Cap the Magic, YouTube, Instagram, all the socials. And then we also have a podcast. If you want some park tips, more in-park stuff, over at CTM Podcast. My wife and I have a podcast we do over there. So we just had a review of our day at Epic and some insights. If you want to ride like Battle, I think the best time to maybe try and ride that is later in the day. So, early on, but still getting some info about the best ways to visit Epic. But always a great time, gentlemen. And of course, we'll be back on Theme Park and sometime very soon to talk about all this stuff again. But always a good time, and appreciate the invite to be on here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And Mr. Slimer, where can everybody find you and your Bass Pro Shop hat on social media?
Yeah, listen, great time. George, I'm glad you actually were able to come on tonight, because I wanted to hear your thoughts about Epic Universe. You're coming fresh from California. You've been at Disneyland so you've been primed to experience a new park, and comparing it to Disneyland is probably the best way, or should I say the best point of reference if you're going to be comparing any new park to another park. So I'm glad I had the opportunity, or you had the opportunity. I'm glad I had the opportunity to come on here. My wife, thank you very much. But you can find me on X at Slime Square. You can find me on Orange Grove 55. And you can find me sometimes with Jared on Capture the Magic on Theme Parking. So thanks very much. I really appreciate talking with you guys today.
Yeah, no, 100%. And George, the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. And before I do, I just have to, it now just dawned on me, looking at Jared and Slimer, you got this Mario Luigi thing going.
Oh, yeah, they kind of do. Absolutely.
I need to grow my mustache out.
Yeah. I need a box I put up on my thing. I can always hit it.
It's fantastic. You got it. Yeah. Now I can't unsee it. That's crazy.
We know what we're going to go for Halloween. We got to go to HHN together, Slimer. We got to go with Mario Luigi.
We do. There was this one video I sent these guys about a year ago. I had a pizza that I ordered, and there was a little mustache and you could pop out of it. And I put it on my nose, and I just videoed myself going boppity boopity boppity boppity boopity. And then, it's just a stupid video I sent them, and they just got a kick out of it. But,
I love it. I
wish I had that cardboard.
I will say before we end it, when George, I saw he did a little thing from the hospital, and the way in which before you started talking, I swear for a moment I was like, "Is that the Sopranos?" Like it looked like you were the Sopranos. Like it looked like you were like giving some update that you just off the guy. I'm like, "What is George? Oh, he's in the hospital." I was like, "Wait a minute, what is this?" Sopranos come to life again.
It's like, I'll make you an offer.
They put me in the hospital, but I got out.
100%.
I got to keep my kidney, but they didn't keep their kneecaps.
Exactly. They were swimming with the fishies. But where can everybody find you on social media, George?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And also check out my new YouTube channel, Citrico Central, sister channel to Orange Grove 55, where I'm covering everything from Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and now even Universal Orlando with Epic Universe. Definitely check out the playback of my live at Epic, and also the vlog that just came out, where basically everything we talked about here, you basically can see the visuals of my reaction, the people around me, with Ministry of Magic and Monsters Unchained. It was definitely a good time. I really enjoyed Epic. My only downside was the fact that I only had a one day. I wish that I had more time there.
There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on Epic Universe, the crowds, the attraction, the vibes, everything we discussed. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And until the next time. Oh, by the way, I do want to say too, the lovely gal at the end of my videos, she's not my girlfriend. I've gotten comments about that. No, she's not my girlfriend, but if she wants to be, she can be. But no, she's not my girlfriend. She's just a model who was nice enough to agree to do our outro for us. So I just want to make that very clear. But everybody, until the next time, see you later.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.